Welcome to another Wall Street Informer production on WSI TV.
We're back for a brand new episode of WSI TV. I'm Sean Bauer, Chief Editor of Wall Street Informer on wallstreetinformer.com. With me is our penny stock expert, Jordan Bishop. How you doing, Jordan?
Doing great, Sean. Thanks for having me.
All right, this is going to be a fantastic end to the episode today because I get to shoot Jordan with this airsoft gun as part of his punishment for our versus round last time. That's going to be fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been shot with one of those since I was a little kid, but we'll see how resilient I am now.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited either way. But anyway, last week we got into this downtrend we saw in the market. This is kind of the chart we had for you on the last regular episode of WSI TV, where we have this downtrend outlined. And here's what we're looking at. This is Thursday's chart, our most recent Thursday, so the 27th.
Right, and something very interesting happened. You'll see there a couple days ago, it broke that downtrend. It actually broke up quite a bit, and then it broke up quite a bit again the next day, which is a very bullish sign.
Yeah, absolutely. So anytime we see like a clear channel like we had outlined there, a clear trend, and it breaks out one way or the other, that's a very, very strong sign to whichever side it breaks out. And in this case, obviously a very bullish sign, which is why we saw that second jump that you were just talking about, Jordan.
Right, and I believe that that initial jump came on the same day, or it came on the Monday after the Sunday night French election. So there's some talk that, you know, the surprise win by Macron, maybe that has something to do with it. But you know, it's all in the chart there. It broke out, and we'll see where it goes from there. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. A big part of it was definitely kind of the shift in the dynamic regarding all the currencies and the value of the dollar being devalued and things like that. And clearly very bullish as far as this market can tell. It seems like it's still just looking for reasons to go up, Jordan.
Right, it does. It's like, you know, it's filled with helium and it just keeps going up, and the rational side of the market keeps wanting to keep it steady or bring it down for a correction. Right. We keep talking about that, you know, every episode we're looking for that correction, but it almost looks like the 200-day moving average, which is what we base sort of the mean of the market price on.
Right, that blue line right there. Yeah.
Right, it looks like it's going to come up and meet the price as opposed to the price coming down to meet it. So
yeah, it does feel like that. And just to correct myself, I'm talking about that kind of curvy blue line on the bottom of the chart there. Right. It does look like it's got to come up to meet the price before the price comes down, Jordan. You're right.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So we've got an interesting few days. We're still in a bull market, very much. We're still buying stocks. You know, that doesn't change until we see otherwise. So
right, yeah. But while that's definitely for the short term, and still, I mean, on the larger scale, the entire market still looks very bullish. There are kind of some warning signs we might be seeing around the world, really. And as we know, I mean, the U.S. markets aren't in a vacuum, which we always keep saying. But you wanna touch on some of these warning signs, Jordan?
Yeah, definitely. The first one I noticed was on Thursday, the European Central Bank, which is the Europe's edition of our Federal Reserve, they had their meeting about their interest rates. Now, their interest rates are at 0%. They've been at 0 for a very long time. Right. Most would say they can only go up. They can go down into negative territory. We've seen that before in the past. Right. But you know, after today's meeting, they remained unchanged. You know, and the markets remained steady. But there's some uncertainty around the euro. You know, concerning Brexit, concerning the French election, concerning all that that might make a big difference. You know, because it does have an influence on the U.S. market and vice versa. Yeah. But you know, we'll see where that takes us.
Right. Absolutely. And keeping rates the same, it probably does sort of make you lean to the fact that the European economy may not be quite as strong as, you know, what we're seeing over here in the U.S. With our recovery. So our Federal Reserve, we've raised interest rates a couple times. Europe may not be seeing quite as much growth, so they're probably still a little bit concerned, Jordan.
Right, definitely. I mean, if you don't know, the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank and, you know, all the others around the world raise rates when they feel the economy is strong enough in order to do that, because it raises interest rates, mortgage rates, all that. It affects everybody from the ground up, you know. So I mean, that's very interesting. But we've got a very weird thing going on in Canada right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've touched on this in the past with sort of a Canadian housing bubble we've mentioned before. And just recently, as recent as last week, I believe, we saw some very beginning signs that could just be starting to tear itself apart. Right. So we'll keep a very close eye on the Canadian market as a whole and just the Canadian economy. Yep. Obviously, being very close neighbors, that's bound to have a huge impact on us, and possibly even a housing scare here as well.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned earlier there's a lot of talk about shorting HCG.
Right.
If you want to look at that in the chart, it's HCG.TO. Yeah. That stock actually lost 250% within the last month. So,
yeah, my goodness.
I mean, we were looking at that chart earlier. It just dropped right off.
Yeah, that's a clear sign of Canadian housing going straight down right now. But yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But finally, we want to touch on NAFTA as well after last week's news.
Concerning us in the U.S., Trump initially wanted to rip up NAFTA completely, the North American Free Trade Agreement between Canada, U.S., and Mexico. Now, he's come out last week and said he doesn't want to rip it up anymore. He wants to renegotiate it. Now, we don't know what that's very vague. Initially we thought it was just gone, like he did with the trade agreements with Japan and China, the Pacific Trade Agreement. But it's going to be very interesting to how he wants to shift the shape of NAFTA.
Yeah, and you also wonder if this is another kind of a byproduct of some of his stuff not going the way he thought it would, like the healthcare bill. When that's getting shot down, maybe this is a move closer to the center, where he didn't think he could get away with it, for lack of a better term. And just play the game his own way. It could be a byproduct.
So he might be pulling back a little bit, and trying to negotiate himself. But an interesting fact about how big that agreement could be. Mexico and Canada export more from the U.S. than all of Europe does combined. So I mean that's huge, just to put it into scale. That's a big deal to rip up, to renegotiate. So I mean he's gonna have to be very careful about what he changes, what he adds, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean with these warning signs here, we'll definitely be keeping an eye out in the future. But I guess before we go, do you have any final announcements?
Yes, I do. And I'm not going to talk about the Dow Jones this time for once. It's all about the Nasdaq. It reached an all-time high. It broke that 6,000 mark. It wasn't as big of a rally as we were watching the Dow Jones when it was approaching 20,000. It stayed there for a couple of weeks. The Nasdaq blasted right through the 6,000, and it's actually doubled in value in the last year. Wow. Oh no, sorry, last 4 years. It's doubled in value in the last 4 years, which is none of the other. Yes.
Yeah, bull market.
None of the S&P hasn't doubled and the Dow hasn't doubled, but the Nasdaq has. So it's interesting to put that in perspective.
Tech stocks, man. Tech stocks.
Yeah, they're on the rise.
Before we say goodbye, we have to get to your punishment. So you ready for that?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. All right, you ready to do this, Jordan?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh my God.
All right, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for watching another Wall Street Informer production on WSI TV. Be sure to visit wallstreetinformer.com, where you can become a member for free and gain instant access to the secrets of market millionaires via the Wall Street Informer Vault. So go ahead and claim this gift for free now at wallstreetinformer.com.